All right, hello everybody. This is going to be the last module that I do about my lesson planning. So this is going to be for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So as you know, we're starting all of our students at all age levels with Unit 0, but obviously the kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade might be a little ahead of the kids in the younger grades if they've had Spanish before. So for me, looking at what I want to do with my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, I really want to get them kind of started right away, with the review. They should have all had Unit 0 before, so I really want to make sure that we just kind of move through it pretty quickly. So what I will do is when I get to class, my first bullet point on my lesson plan is just going to be, say hello, ask them how their summer was, connect with them. Middle school loves when you take a interest in their personal lives. So, kind of try to develop that relationship. If you are new, feel free to introduce yourself, let them know a little bit about you, where you came from, why you're a Spanish teacher, that type of thing. If you're from another country, it's always so cool to share about, being from another country or, whatnot. But also, if you're not a native Spanish speaker, it's really cool to tell them how you ended up learning Spanish. So, for example, I, didn't speak Spanish. It was not my first language, but I studied it in elementary school, middle school, and high school and college. And so now here I am today. So don't tell me that you can't learn Spanish because I did just the way you are. So that's kind of what I like to remind my kids. So then I might go in and just kind of say, okay, so I want to see what you guys remember from last year. Maybe I'll ask them, what do you remember? Have them raise their hand, pick a few, see what they all remember. Once we have kind of run out of things that we remember, my plan is to make copies of the Unit 0 study guide that is in the back of your binder under the Unit 0 tab. I'm going to make copies of this, and I am going to give them out to all of the students, but have it face down, and I am going to tell them that they are going to get a time test, and whoever remembers the most things correctly in Spanish is going to win. I don't know what they'll win yet, but they'll win. So then what I'll do is, maybe even on the smart board on the computer screen, I'll pull up a timer. If you just type in free timer on Google, it'll come up with something. And so once that comes up, then I'm going to give them all 10 minutes to answer as many things as they can remember from Unit 0. So as they go through, they might not remember all of the body parts, but if they remember ojos, they can write that in. If they remember the greetings, they know hola and adios, I would hope. So they'll go through, and as they're rushing to do this as quickly as possible to get as many in as possible, they're going to start realizing how much Spanish they've retained over the years. And then at the end, what we will do is, I'll say time, hands up, whatever. They'll have to stop, and then I'll have them trade with a partner, and we will go through, and I will have them repeat the words after me. So I will say eyes, ojos, and they repeat ojos, nose, nariz, nariz. And as they go, the kids will mark how many they're getting right, versus how many they either left blank or didn't get right. And so then at the end, again, whoever got the most right out of the review gets some sort of prize or something like that. So just kind of a fun little activity to get the kids, already competitive, but also realizing how much Spanish they've retained over the years. Now, if they hadn't had Spanish before, I probably wouldn't do this activity, but my kids in 6th, 7th, and 8th have all had me as their teacher for the last few years, so I know kind of where they're at. If you don't want to do that, you might just print them all out a copy and say, okay, today we're going to focus on the first page of this thing. Let's look at it. Do you guys recognize any of the words and how you would say them? And maybe just kind of do a dialogue like that and have them filling them in. So either way, you can go with your students to get them, looking at that review. Once you figure out who's got the best, everybody gets their copy back. And so my plan is that then for homework, they would need to go and look up all of those words and make sure that they spelled them right and that they have the article. So is it eyes, is it los ojos or las ojos? I want them to find that. So I will send them maybe just one page, maybe the whole packet, I'm not sure yet, but to have them go and make sure that they've spelled everything right, fill in any of the answers that they didn't know before, just so that way they have a running copy of this. And then I want them to keep this with them all year long because it's a great resource for them to have. These are a lot of the basic things that they should know. And so I want them to have it with them all year long and be able to reference it as kind of their go-to. So like in the purple and orange books, they have the first 12 pages of the book are all of the Unit 0 things listed out with pictures. This is going to be their version of that resource. So once we review all the responses, I kind of anticipate the whole activity to kind of take a little bit of time. So you give somebody their pies and whatnot. Then probably the last thing that I would do with my students is I'm going to do the Puedo Ir al Baño song with them as well. So my routine with my students in middle school is to open class with a prayer, and then I'm going to end class this year with some sort of video. So kind of the same thing that I did with my 4th and 5th grade. So that is the plan for the middle school. It's a little bit more simple. As you can see with the middle school, you can spend a little bit more time on an activity versus with the little kids, you're switching activities every few minutes because you want to keep them moving and engaged and all of that. So with the older kids, it's a little bit more writing, it's a little bit more structured, and the activities are a little bit longer, but you still, want to find ways to make them interesting, which is why we're doing the competition and things like that. So that'll be the first day. Like I said, their homework is going to be to go through and, make sure all their answers are correct in their study guide, and then that's going to be due next week. So next week I'll check that, and they'll get a grade for completing that assignment. And that is going to be the lesson for 6th, 7th, and 8th.